Hola, mi gente. Welcome or welcome back to Cat and Too Many Books. I'm Kat. Thank you for joining me today. Happy Sunday. This is Pajama Sunday. Hello. It's a little dark out, but that's okay. I kind of wanted to get this done today. You see, I am in a new space. This is not really a new space. This is actually my other bookshelves. These are my already read bookshelves that I have outside in the living room. I'm usually in my reading room. My crafting space, my library. But I wanted to be in a different space today. So, because I want to actually just talk about my wrap-ups. So I haven't done a proper wrap-up in months. I think the last one I did was maybe in June. I feel that that's right. So what I wanted to do was go ahead and sort of do a quick wrap-up of the last few months. So this is going to be my wrap-ups for July, August, September, and October. And just quickly talk about the books that I've read and maybe give a couple of thoughts on them and my ratings. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started on that. So just adjusted myself a little bit there. So let's talk a little bit about what I read in the month of July. So I'm just gonna add them here. I didn't want to go pull all the books out. Some of them I might not even have because some of them I think were library reads. But so I'll just put them right here so you can see. So the first book we're going to talk about is Spy vs. Family, Volume 6 by Tatsuya Endo. In this one, we are introduced to a new character who is the partner of Twilight. And so she is very jealous of his relationship with his pretend wife. And so it's absolutely hilarious. The most preposterous things happen. We get a little deeper into the relationship between the Lloyd family. Anya still trying to help her adopted dad with her telepathy. Yuri and Lloyd sort of lying to each other about, the assassin secret spy situation they have going on, but also falling in love. It is the cutest, I swear, the cutest, most heartwarming, lovely little family thing, but, assassins and spies and telepathic dogs and telekinesis or telepathic children. Anyway, love this. I give this one 4 stars. It was really, really fun. I recommend that manga if you like mangas. The next one I have is Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon by Annie Marie. This is a sapphic romance. I give this a 4.5. I loved this so much. So it is sort of a it's a time travel book, sort of. So the two main characters, they meet through text. So it's 2 women, and it's Tressa Faye and Meryl. So Meryl contacts Tressa Faye on her phone, and they start exchanging texts, and they decide they really like each other and want to meet that same night. So Tressa Faye goes out to meet her, but when she gets there, she isn't there. And then she realizes, wait a minute, she's talking about. Eventually they realize that Tressa Faye was speaking to Meryl in the past, and so Meryl's family come to find Tressa Faye because Meryl has disappeared. And so it's just starts a whole narrative of them trying to find each other and keep Meryl from disappearing again so they can be together. And Tressa Faye and Meryl fall in love over this, the time that they're doing this. And it's just about relationships, and not just theirs, but the other relationships with the other people in their lives. And little things change. So it's a multiverse. So in different verses, they've all met in a different way. And it gives you little moments like that you see different verses where different things happened. And as things change for them in the verse that they're in, then the universe that they're in, everybody remembers it both ways. So it's really, really, really interesting. And yeah, I loved it. It's a different type of story, and it's a different type of romance, but I really enjoyed it a lot. Definitely recommend it if you like sci-fi, if you like time travel stories, if you like sapphic romances. Highly recommend this one. It was so good. Next, I read Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which I gave a 2.5 to. This is probably controversial. Oh gosh, I really like the concept of this story. I think I would have maybe enjoyed reading it if it not for the forced triangle. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I just, it's young adult, so maybe it's also just too young for me. Right? I'm in my 40s. This may not be something for me. But I didn't like the romantic interest. Nick was fine, but he was a little bit, 19, maybe a bit older. While I couldn't remember her name, while Bree was 16. So, really don't love that. I mean, that's not a huge age gap, but it's enough for me. But then the second character that they sort of had her have feelings for or whatever, who was like the Merlin, I think he was like the Merlin, because this is based off Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, sort of a legend, but they're fighting demons. Anyway, I mean, the concept is great. I really think it's great, but it was just the handling of that. I just didn't like it. I hated that. I hated that the second, which I can't remember his name right now. I generally can't. The second sort of character that she's involved with is abusive. That's the word. He's just awful to her at the very, for the first 60% of the book. He's like accusing her of stuff, trying to kill her. He throws her around a few times. Like it's pretty awful. And then like suddenly things are switched up and like I cannot. Like, to each their own. If you enjoyed it, that's great. I do think the concept was fantastic. I think Brie could have been a really great character that I would have enjoyed. I found that the idea of having this like modern version of the round table that went back to the actual original round table and had to do with like saving the world and fighting demons and stuff. Great concept. Love it. Absolutely hate the romance. And that ruined it for me. So I finished reading the first book. I gave it a 2.5, but I will not be continuing in this series. Thankfully, the next one I read in July was The Corruption of Hollis Brown by Kay Ancrum. And I absolutely loved this book. I gave this book 5 stars. It was just such a beautiful story. It's also just messed up, too. But it was so beautifully told. So, like, Hollis lives in a town that's haunted. Their town is haunted. It's haunted by trauma, by all the different terrible things that have happened there. So Hollis is stuck in his little town, which is a town that's like dying. It's dying, and it's haunted literally by the traumas that people have had happen to them there. He unknowingly meets a mysterious stranger named Walt. Walt ends up being a ghost who possesses Hollis because he's trying to help him. Walt's been around for a very long time. And so initially Hollis is very resistant and tries to sort of push Walt out, but then they get to know each other, they become involved, and then they fall in love. And so it's just this really messed up, beautiful love story about possession, but also about these two absolutely beautiful souls that are wounded and find each other. And it's gorgeous because Kay Ancrum writes absolutely gorgeous narratives. I've loved all of their work. I think I've given 5 stars to. So I don't think I have the words to express how much I love this book. Truly 5 stars. The next book I read was The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha by Disha Filia, which is a sort of a short story narrative with connecting stories that follows Black women from I think the same sort of community. A lot of the sort of connecting points is like church and their beliefs or the non-beliefs. There are several different stories, a few sapphic ones that I've really enjoyed, but they all really look into like the longings and the loves and the affairs, and but also the struggles and the fights and the just the difficulty of being a Black woman in the world, period. Whether it's society, your family, your church, whatever, it really, really like sort of delved into all these different aspects, and I really, 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 really enjoyed it. I gave this 4 stars. It was really, really good. I really highly recommend it. It's very short. It's not very long, but it was a really good book. Next, I read Lunar Boy by Jess Wilbio and Sin Wibio, which is a graphic novel about a young boy, Indu, who's from the moon, and he feels he doesn't really belong. And his adopted mom and him have embarked on like this spaceship to live on. So Indu is found on the moon, and his adoptive mom takes him with her to the spaceship that she lived on, but she eventually gets married, and so they move to Earth. And it's about Indu having to find his place on Earth and find his place within the new family that he has, and find his place within the new community that he's building, and finding other queer people that he can connect with. And he finds a lot of friendship and love in all these wonderful places. I really love the rep here. It's got transgender rep. It's got sapphic rep. It's got all kinds of queer rep. It's beautiful. The art is gorgeous. The palette is, I love the palette. It's all these blues and pinks and but it's so well done. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it a lot. I if you're a fan of like Witch Boy or Squish, Lunar Boy is probably something you would really, really like. I definitely am going to pick this up to have a copy because I got this from the library. I want to have a copy of this in my classroom for my kids. So I give this a 4.5. I read A Torch Against the Night, which was the second in the Ember and the Ashes series. I gave this 5 stars. I gave pretty much everything in that series 5 stars. This continues from An Ember and the Ashes with Leia and Elijah having joined forces to go save Leia's brother, and it sort of deepens their bond. It also kind of gives a little bit more meat to both of the different triangles they have in here. What it does wonderfully is truly get you to understand the character of Helene. She becomes very prominent in this. There's her point of view is the third point of view in this book, and I absolutely fell in love with that character. She was probably my favorite character of the whole series. Yeah, I loved the way that Sabatahir continued the story arcs for all of the characters, their growth, and set them off on a completely like in directions you did not expect them to go into. So yeah, love this. It was 5 stars. And finally, I read in July, I read I Shall Never Fall in Love by Harry Connor. It was a graphic novel that is kind of based off of Jane Austen, and like kind of Sense and Sensibility, sort of, Persuasion a little, like it was like a bunch of different ones put together. And it is about 2 best friends, which is Charlotte, right? Yes, Charlotte, George, Eleanor. So Eleanor and George are the 2 best friends. George is a transgender man, and it's just about George being allowed to be who he is in that time and space. And Eleanor started coming to terms with her feelings for George, and what she wants from George. And then Charlotte is Eleanor's cousin, also best friends with them all, and she is a black character, mixed race, because she's her cousin, and it's about her struggles as a mixed race person in the world, and how she and Eleanor doesn't quite understand what that's like, and her finding her own sort of romance. And it was really cute. It was really cute. It had a lot of like tropes from Jane Austen's books, and it was nice. I really loved it. I really loved the romances in it. I appreciate all the queer rep. So yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. The art was fun too. If I forget to say, the art was good. Okay, so that was all I read in July. So then for August, I didn't read as many books. I read 3 in August. 2 of them for my book club that I have a real life book club, and so I read these 3 books. Oh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. I read 3 books for that. I read The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, which was a thriller that I read. It was a literary thriller, so it's very different than any other thriller I've really read. It doesn't go with thrillers quite as the same way that I normally read them. I gave this a 3 stars. It was okay. It was a bit confusing in the narrative because there was like so many different points of views that you were learning from. But now it not just that would have been okay, but it was like so many different points of view, and then they jumped time, so it was like different, like I don't know, it was like 6 different points of views plus 3 different timelines. It was very confusing, so it got very convoluted, and you weren't quite sure where you were or what was happening. The mystery was about a young girl who goes missing from the camp. So it's like a summer camp sort of situation, and so a young girl whose family is the rich family that like sponsors the camp, she disappears. But the problem with that is that her brother, about, I don't know, 14 years before this, had also disappeared. So like it's a situation with the family. It is a family drama. It is really messy and messed up. I'm not sure if any of the characters were really very likable, but that's not something I need. It was just kind of confusing and convoluted, but also kind of not, I don't know, not compelling enough in some ways. It was fine, but yeah, definitely not one of my favorite things that I've read this year. I also read Murder Marks the Page by Karen Rose Smith. I picked this up. This is a library read? I feel like this was a library read. I gave it 2. Actually, I think I might have owned this. Maybe I didn't. If I owned it, I gave it away. I gave it a 2. I did not like this at all. It was just not well written. It wasn't as bad as the Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder that I read earlier in the year. I hated that a lot more. I didn't like the writing style. It was very sort of elementary. I don't know how to say that in a nicer way. It was a bit repetitive. I didn't really sort of, I wasn't endeared to any of the characters. And it was like set in a small town, so like a community feel is usually something I really love in these kind of things. But yeah, and then I don't even remember. I don't remember who the murderer was. Like, do I remember? I read it. I don't remember. So it tells you how much I didn't particularly care for it. So I gave it 2 stars. And then last one I read in August was The Bombshell by Darrow Farr. I gave this 4 stars. It was, oh God, it was such an interesting story about a young girl who gets kidnapped. And it's about it's about her being radicalized through her kidnappers, but she's not. she is in charge more than nothing else. Her character is not very likable at that age that she is during the time of the book. There's a very questionable relationship with a much older man who is one of her kidnappers. It takes place in Krista in 1993. I think it actually also, though, is inspired by actual true events that happened in Krista in 1993. And so Severine is the character, and she is snatched by these three men and ends up helping them rebel and do a bunch of very illegal things, and she becomes sort of the spokesperson for the group, and they end up committing some crimes, and then it's just, I don't know, like, it was well written, absolutely well written. I think Farr has a deft pen, but I just didn't quite gel with the characters until we skip ahead to the end. So like the end of this book made me give it 4 stars. I think I was at a 3, and then we got to the end and I really loved the older Severine and what happens to her and what she does, and sort of how it sort of culminates at the end, and sort of the tying things together at the end of the book. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part. I kind of wish the whole book had been older Severine, and then maybe we could have looked back at what happened in Krista in 1993, because I feel I would have at least attached myself to her a lot more if I'd gotten to meet her when she was older first. But yeah, it's worth a read, I think, if you like literary, contemporary. I mean, it's historical. It's historical fiction, but if you like historical fiction, I think this might be a good one to sort of pick up. It's kind of a thriller, but it's not a thriller. It's like, I don't know. It's a very interesting story, and I do recommend it for anyone that would be interested in reading it. It's about, passion and political awakening and first love, and so like, and for a first book, I think this is fantastic. So yeah, do with that what you will. So now we're to September. In September, I read 5 books. I read A Reaper at the Gates, which is book number 3 in Ember in the Ashes. We continue the story with Helene, Elijah, Leia. There have been a lot of twists and turns. There's been some betrayals. There's stuff going on with Elijah that's breaking your heart. You're 100% fully rooting for him and Leia. Helene is absolutely killing it, and you are absolutely on her side with everything that happens, and she's just making you so sad, and you just want to like punch people for her. And just it culminates in them having to stop a lot of bad things coming into the world that they're in and that they're living in, and just, this was really, really good. I gave it 5 stars. I really highly recommend this series. The next book I read was a picture book called Don't Worry Murray by David Ezra Stein. Isn't he cute? Murray. It's about this little dog named Murray who's like afraid of everything. He has high anxiety. And so it's just like the story goes, like you go through it, and he's afraid of like lightning and thunder, or he becomes afraid of it. Like there's rain and he's like, oh, rain, but then it starts thundering and lightning, so he becomes afraid of it. But then like he learns, okay, well, it's not so bad. It's good. It can be good. It's lovely. I think it's a wonderful book for helping anybody with anxiety. It's super cute, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars because it was so cute. The next book I read was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that was Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins, which is the 5th. Well, it's a prequel. So like the 2nd prequel in the Hunger Games series. This was, of course, the long-awaited Haymitch story. So, this was 5 stars. Susan Collins does the most incredible stuff with her books, and I already love so many of these characters, and this generally was the most heartbreaking. I think this book is the most heartbreaking of them all, and that is saying so much. you understand Haymitch so much more when you're done with this book, and you are with him 100% of whatever he decided to do. And it's just about, it's the 50th. Yeah, it's the 50th Hunger Games. So it's a quarter of a century before the first Hunger Games book. And it's 40 years after the last the last prequel that we read, Snakes and... I was going to say Snakes and Ladders. That's not it. Ballad of Snakes. A Ballad of Songs and Snakes, or whatever that one was. That one. Oh God, I can't talk about it if you haven't read it, but Haymitch is absolutely just heartbreaking in this. God, he's so different from the person that we know him as when we first meet him, and you absolutely understand why when you go through this book. There's a lot of throwbacks to the characters we know. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. It was gut-wrenching, honestly. It made me cry. 5 stars. Then I picked up the third in the Murderbot series, Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells. I absolutely love Murderbot. They are one of the best characters I've ever read. They are continuing their mission to try to expose the company that's been causing harm to its people. And he meets another group of people who are in this sort of abandoned mine place trying to find something, but it's all sort of a setup, and it's them trying to help these group of people, scientists. They're all scientists, trying to save them from death, basically. Same humor, same sort of great storytelling, very fast, very quick, as she has done previously with art. You become endeared with one of the robots that you meet, one of the non-sentient beings that you meet in this. I don't know. It was great. I gave this one 4 stars. And lastly, in September, I read the final in the Ember in the Ashes series, which is A Sky Beyond the Storm. And fantastic, 5 stars again. Fantastic conclusion. I gave this whole series 5 stars. I think this was such a great, fantastic conclusion. It was really satisfying. All the people you wanted to be there were there. Some very painful stuff happens, some more losses, some more gains. But, you know, they're able to do what they need to do. Our favorite characters get a semblance of happiness. I want to put that out there. Definitely read this series. Please, please, please read this series. It is probably the best, one of the best series I've ever read in my life. It is in my top series. It might be my favorite young adult series. It might be my favorite young adult fantasy series outside of The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is still my number 1, so this is my second favorite. It is so good. Please read it if you haven't. Finally, we get to October. So I read 5 books in October. I began by reading again, and 2 of these again are for my real life book club. So I read Catabasis, or Catabasis, however you say it, by R.F. Kuang. Loved this. 5 stars. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I know that is like controversial, not controversial, but like it's a very like one way or the other. Some people really didn't like it. Some people really loved it. I feel like if you were looking for Babel, whatever you found in Babel, this is not the book for that. Like, Babel is very academically focused. Like, it's very much clear and concise, and it's a very different vibe, this book, than that one. So if you go in this one looking for that one, you're not going to be happy. But if you are looking for an absolutely just bonkers adventure into the 9 circles of hell, so like Dante's Inferno, these 2 graduate students decide to go to hell to get their professor who has died and bring him back because they need to finish their, their theses. And so they're like, we gotta go, we gotta get him back. So they do go back. But there's a lot that you don't know. The relationships and the things that Arfkar was saying about academics, like the world of academics and how women are treated in it. This is set in the 1980s as well, so, or maybe 1990s. It's set a while back. She has a lot to say in this book, and I think she did it well. She didn't delve into it as much as I think people would have probably wanted, but she delved in it enough that you understood the motivations that the characters had, which is really what you wanted to have. It was scary at times, a little bit freaky. It was really funny. I really, really enjoyed the main characters. I enjoyed quite a few of the side characters. I just genuinely had a great time reading this book. It was a big book, and I read part of it on audio, a good chunk of it on audio, as I read through it as well. It was so good. I highly recommend this book. The second book that I read in October was Bocanada, Palabras sin decir, by Gustavo Y. del Valle Cruz. So this is a very small book of poetry. It's about 32 pages long. And the poet Gustavo del Valle Cruz is actually my cousin. And he self-published and wrote this book a little while back. And it's inspired by an Argentinian musician, Gustavo Cerati, who wrote an album was called Bocanada. And so this is a collection of poems in Spanish and English. It was written with the intent to sort of heal from a relationship breakup. That's why it was written. And so there are very evocative, deep sort of additions to it, or parts to it, and then there's some that are just very quick and to the point. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Again, my cousin's so biased, right? I gave it 5 stars. But I really loved it. I loved the poems so I'm not a poetry expert. I read poetry, but I'm not an expert. I just know that I know what I like, and I like this. I think like the emotions in the poems are relatable. Because we have all had that kind of heartbreak before, or most of us have, or we can at least imagine what it's like, right? So, sometimes we feel a little lost, a little empty. This really talks about that. And then having the poems in both languages really emphasizes how heartache transcends all those barriers that we have, right? And so it allows people to understand each other. I had two poems that were my favorite, Silence and Los Reflejos. Those are my 2 favorites. I recommend checking it out. It's on Amazon if you want to get it. It's not very expensive, and I just really, really enjoyed how the grief of a lost relationship was sort of spoken about through the poetry. Next, and so I read this in September. So remember, September was sequels and series September. So I ended up actually finishing 2 sequels in this month. So the first one of that is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, which is the 3rd in the Emily Wilde series. I give this 4 stars. I really I really, really enjoyed the end to this. I didn't love it as much as the first 2, to be fair. But I did really enjoy it. I really enjoyed going into Wendell's realm, and meeting all of the people in his realm. I really liked the sort of fight that they were having to fight to save Wendell's realm, which was like is so important to him. So, you know, having all that there was really, really great. And then I think what I didn't love was I felt it ran a little too long. Like, I think it was maybe like 70, 80 pages too long. There was like a whole section that I thought was unnecessary. Or not unnecessary because it was still good, but I thought like if that had been edited down, it would have been a much, much more, it would have flowed better. And I think I would have probably given it 5 stars, but I gave 4 stars because I still loved Emily. I still loved Wendell. I loved them together. They were one of my favorite new pairings. And yeah, please read this series if you haven't. It is generally makes me so happy. It made me happy. The series just made me happy. It was lovely. So definitely read it. The next book that I read in October was Muse of Nightmares, which is the duology. So the second book in the duology of Stranger Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I love this so much. Listen, they have the thing about this book is it has one of my favorite villains. One of my favorite villains because she is generally the most relatable. Like, you are like, yes, 100% kill them all. Like, genuinely, you are on her side, but you're also like, girl, no. So Minya is by far one of my favorite characters. I'm glad that Laszlo and Sarah were still here. They were able to be together. I really loved how this didn't end in a way that was I mean, it's a fantasy, so like, how realistic is it? But like, I really liked the way things ended. Like, I liked how, like, everything was where it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to be, but not everything was fixed. If that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense. Or it was fixed, but in a way that was relatable. I loved that the big bad was absolutely came out of nowhere. You were not expecting it. Like, it was so well done. It was so well done. Ugh. It was so good. It was so good. So yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. I loved it. It was yeah. It's definitely one of the books that I've enjoyed the most in this year, and that means I've actually finished the duology. So that's another series I'm done with. So that's exciting. And then lastly, for my real life book club, I read Midnight Timetable, a novel in ghost stories by Bora Chung. I gave this 3.5 stars. It was a series of ghost stories all taking place in an institute, and the institute takes care of haunted objects. And so it's like not the director, what was her name? Basically, like, the manager of the place was telling an employee different stories about different objects, and so like you would follow the different characters. My most favorite was the very first story, which is you can't go in there, which is the name of the story. You can't go in there, and the main character. Okay, so it's literary horror at its core. I mean, there's a quietness to the stories with like a few moments of horror in them, and then there was a couple of moments of imagery that got you. To be fair, translated stories sometimes can be a bit of a miss, though. So most of these felt, and I think this is a point, like folk tales, told like around a campfire type of deal, and don't know that I caught all the subtleties of every single one of the stories, but the first story, You Can't Come In Here, was my favorite because the main male character was someone you felt deeply for within just the first few pages. And I think having spoken to people at my real life book club, they told me that story was the most like Bora Chung's writing. So like how she writes normally. And so I'm really, really interested in reading more Bora Chung's work then, because I loved that first story. But yeah, if you want to pick it up, it's not scary. It has, again, a few moments of like, whoa, and, you know, imagery that you're like, ah, but it's not going to scare you. It is moving though. And, a bit of a joy to read a little bit. It was probably the least scary book I could have read for like Halloween. I didn't read a lot of scary books this Halloween. Wish I had. But yeah, so I gave that one again 3.5 stars. And that's it. Those are all of the books I read in the last 4 months. Yeah, I've enjoyed quite a few of them. I think I had a couple of DNFs. Hold on a moment. Yes. Okay, I had 3 DNFs in the last. I want to bring this up. This should not be how I finish this, but I'm going to talk about these real quick. I had 3 DNFs. The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder. Absolutely hated this book. Awful book. Sorry, by C.L. Miller. Sorry, C.L. Miller. I mean, I'm sure other people might like your book. They must have. There's a sequel. I genuinely hated this writing. It was just not for me whatsoever. It was just boring. There was no mystery. It was just insulting because it was so stupid. I just really, really hated this book. So I DNF'd it. The second one I DNF'd was the Case for Christ, Released Rebel. I was reading it with a group of people who were sort of reading a theology book. But I did not like the writing style whatsoever. It was very sort of self-grandizing in my opinion. And it just didn't. Like the Case for Christ seems like such a weird thing to say because, I mean, we know for sure and 100%, like, historically that a person named Christ existed in the world. So, like, that's not really... Anyways, is one thing we really do know. So, I don't know. So, I DNF'd it. I was not interested in continuing it. And then I also DNF'd A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria. I do want to talk about this one because I was so mad. I really, really enjoyed You Had Me at Hola. I loved that book so much because I just did. And so I'd been wanting to read, the Primas of Power series for a while. So I ended up finally picking it up. I hated this book. I generally disliked the main character so much. I don't like what she did to Gabriel. Like, just spoiler alert, if you don't want to know, I would wait till I put my hand down. Skip. So, like, she basically kidnaps him. Like, she lies to him about where he's going to stay. He has cut all contact off with his family. He does not want to talk to them or see them. He has his reasons. I don't know what they were, but he had his reasons. And as a person from a Latino family, you have to understand what it takes for us to cut contact. Like, it does not happen often. So the fact that he did should have been taken seriously, but she didn't. She tricked him into thinking that he was going to stay in her house in like the city, but then forced him in her car, got him in her car, and then took him to her home, which was next door to her parents' house, which is next door to his parents' house. And he was extremely upset about it. And she was just basically telling him to get over it. It was frustrating. And if a male character had done that to a female character, you would have absolutely heard about it and people would have had a fit. But nobody said anything anywhere about it. Maybe one person or two mentioned it in a review. I absolutely hated it. And then, like, generally about 50 pages in, they're sleeping together. And it was... No. Hated it. So, that was not for me. And I'm very sad about it. Because I really, really wanted to finish the series. But I don't think I'm going to continue in the series. I'm not sure. I think Alexis Daria might have been a one-hit wonder for me. So, yeah. I'm going to leave that where it is. But okay, that was it. I hate ending it on a weird negative note, but that was all the things that I read in the last 4 months. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm hoping this is so long. Hopefully I can cut this down to be less long. And I will hope to see you guys very, very soon. Please like, subscribe, comment. It really helps my channel. You can just let me know what you thought of any of these books. If you want to read any of these books, please leave a little emoticon of, I don't know, a book. That's enough. and that would be great. And yeah, I think that's all for now. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.